Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Peter O. Estevez Show. This is your host, Peter O. Estevez. Welcome, 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 welcome. Today we have none other than my good friend, April Monterrosa. April Monterrosa is a San Antonio native. She's an entrepreneur, a published author, and the CEO, editor-in-chief of Live from the Southside, the first Latina-owned publication in the South Side of San Antonio. She is listed as an influential Latina in San Antonio by KSAT 12 News and was honored by the 8700 Texas Legislature for her achievements as a civic leader and a community advocate. April has a passion for giving back to the community and serves as board member on the San Antonio Water Systems, the Community Experience Committee, the Palo Alto College Cosmetology Committee, the San Antonio District for Small Business Committee, and it is a board member of Brooks Give Back and Mitchell Lake Audubon Center nonprofits. April also serves as the Director of Community Development for the Pink Berets and the media sponsor for the Fin Addict Angler Foundation. As a writer, marketing, and social media professional, April works with brands locally throughout the state of Texas and nationally. April's passion is connecting others through travel, business, social media, and events. And more importantly, April is a keynote speaker at Latin Talks San Antonio. Hello, April Monterrosa. Welcome
Hello.
to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am terrific. I am so excited to have you on the podcast. We talked about this a couple of months ago when we first got connected for Latin Talks. Yes. I'm excited that it's finally happening. Tell us about who you have an incredible resume, an incredible bio, a slew of accomplishments. Tell us about who you are on a personal basis. Who is the woman, April Monterrosa?
Oh my goodness. I'm actually pretty laid back. People always ask me, how do you do all that? The question is, I don't know either. I don't know how I do it. How do I do it? I'm very family oriented. So if I'm not working, I'm with my family in quiet places, fishing, enjoying the water, catching up with friends. And I mean, my life is actually pretty simple outside work.
Outside of work. I see you everywhere on social media. You're at every event that is happening in San Antonio, particularly the South Side. But let's talk about your upbringing. You came from a father that was an entrepreneur, several brothers, a father that was very motivational, hardworking, very resourceful, and instilled hard work, good ethics, good morals, and never give up. How was your childhood? How was your teenage years?
Oh my good, I was a wild child. I was a wild child from my teenage years to like my 30s. But no, my dad grew up in a military type home. And him and my mom got together very young. So he was definitely the alpha, the head of the house. But yeah, he became an entrepreneur when I was probably going into high school. So I got to see that. I got to see the transition of leaving a 9-to-5 where, you get a steady check and you know what you're going to provide for your family with, to entrepreneur life. It was, now that I'm older and I think about it, there was a lot of sacrifice personally and professionally for me and my two brothers, for sure.
Wow.
So I do remember that growing up. Like I mentioned, I was a little wild child, but I've always had a mind of my own. And I think what kept me out of trouble was I was always ambitious. But I think that has to do with seeing my father. He always wanted better for us. He always wanted more for us. And we grew up with that mindset. So I don't know any other way. So even though I was chaotic and around all kinds of people growing up, I always wanted a good life. So I think that's what kept me on a straight road, really.
Now, so you went on to pursue the corporate world, right? You worked in the corporate world for a while before you became an entrepreneur, before you had your own business, before you really got involved in the community. But there was a pivotal point. There was something that kind of
Yes.
cracked you open. What was that? And tell
So,
me about that journey.
so what people don't know, because it's not quite often I share this part of my life, but I got my cosmetology license in high school.
Okay.
And I immediately went to work. That was going to be my part-time job while I was in college. And I just loved it. I had to sit down and tell my parents, yeah, college isn't for me. Being the only girl, the oldest, they were not happy. But I stuck to the beauty world. And that led me to corporate America in the beauty industry. So I was a spa trainer for many years. And at the time, I mean, I have my dream job at this time. I'm training beauty professionals, and I'm traveling, and I'm at multi-million dollar spas all day, and it smells great and it's relaxing. I mean, who's not gonna want to go to work like that, right? Um, but I started working on friends and family just for extra cash because I was living on my own. And friends and family couldn't afford $300-400 spa days. So I would do it for them in my apartment or my house or whatever. And that grew. Fast forward to a few years, it grew. And then it came to a point where I have strangers wanting to come and get these services with me. And and I don't mean extreme strangers. I mean like a cousin of a friend of a friend. I'm like, I don't want all these strange people at my house. I mean, I don't know these people. So I finally was at a point where I wasn't happy at my job anymore. Corporate America in the beauty industry, you work holidays, you work Sundays, you have to make sure your team is set. I just was done. I was ready. And I think I was enjoying the entrepreneur side that I was exposed to on my own. Because, here again, I grew up in an entrepreneurial home, but now this is my little thing. And I'm like, I think I could do this. I'm making enough money where I can make it. Am I gonna be able to travel and do all these things? Maybe not right away. So I think what did it was I was on my way to the coast with my family, and my boss calls and says, if you don't get your back here, we're gonna have to talk about it. And I'm like, wait a minute, I put in my 2 weeks, like my 2 weeks my request off, a long time ago. I got my team to cover for me. No, the GM's wife wants you to do her service. So you need to come back. And I'm like, I'm on the road. Like, I'm like an hour and a half away.
Wow.
Like, you know what? We'll talk about it when I get back. Sure enough, we had a group that day. When I got back, I worked on 8 clients. He let me work on the 8 clients, write me up, and I put in my 2 weeks instead.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And that was the end. That was the end of your corporate America job.
That was it. I found a little studio that I could afford. As I bought as much equipment and stuff that I could, to get going. And I remember it was my birthday. My friends wanted to go have a drink for my birthday, and I said, no, you know what you're doing for my birthday? You're going to help me move into my studio. I'll buy the booze. So that's what we did. We had a few beers and we set up my studio, and I was open for business.
Wow. What a great story. April, you touched on a couple of points that I want to talk about, because obviously you are one of the keynote speakers for Latin Talks. And as the audience know, as the community knows, Latin Talks is a series of talks and conversations where local Latin leaders like yourself would be sharing their stories, their answers and solutions to challenges and adversities that one face. Okay. And there's a couple of things that resonate, and I think it's important that we dig in deep. It is not common in the Latino community that your parents expect you to go to college, yet your father and your mother had very high expectations of you. Where was that formation came? Where did that come from? Because was that your father's military background? Are you both of your brothers college educated?
Yes. My father wasn't in the military. His father was.
Okay.
My father always told us, I don't want you digging ditches. My dad's a contractor still. He's almost 70, and he looks great for his age. he's always told us, I don't want you working in the hot sun like me. I don't want you slaving over, dirt and this and dirty. And he wanted more for us. My brothers, yes, they are college educated. One is a PhD candidate, and he actually is a business owner, owns several businesses throughout Texas. And then my other brother went to Berkeley College of Music, and he also has an entertainment business. So we're all entrepreneurs. And then there's me. I'm the oldest and the shortest.
So your father and your mother, they gave you that independence, that freedom to travel, to do whatever you wanted to do, which is another taboo in the Latino community. I remember my mom and dad, mostly my mom, who was kind of like the head of the household. Dad was the hard worker, mom was a homemaker, and mom would always talk to my sisters about how they needed to learn how to cook and clean and be prepared. She was almost grooming them to. She would call it to be a good housewife, to be able to find a good husband. Unfortunately, none of them found a good husband, but so mom's recipe does not always work, ladies and gentlemen.
That is true, because in my case, my mom did work sometimes, just to kind of help, my dad out when he was working his 9 to 5. And then I remember he got hurt. He hurt his neck one time. He was off for a little while. And she started working, like substituting. Once the business came, she started helping with that. But it's funny because my mom always jokingly brings up women of today. Like, my mom is always fixed up. She has her hair done, she has her makeup done, and the house is clean. And she runs a business. And she used to work at the same time. Like, that's all I know. So that's how I am now. I try to keep where I live clean. I try to visit my family. I try to keep myself up. And then, friends that you got to spend time with, family you got to spend time with, and then your work. So I think I don't want to say I was programmed that way, but that's what my examples were of normal life. Right. So, and it's funny because my dad's dad was military. And then, of course, his mom was stay at home. So he grew up with dad's the man of the house, and mom takes care of the house, right? My dad always taught me to take care of myself. He would always tell me, I'm not always going to be there for you. You can't always depend on a man, because, things he would see, divorces or friends going through things or whatever, family that would go through things. So he was very, and still is, we still have man-to-man talks. Like, he's very tough on me. And now I understand why. And it's funny. So when I do my everyday thing, it's not something I even think about. That's just how I am.
Yeah.
Now as an adult.
Yeah. So tell me, as a Latino woman, as an entrepreneur, as a civic leader, as a humanitarian, how do you see the Latino culture evolving in San Antonio? San Antonio, for lack of a better word, it's a very, very high Latino population. Spanish speaking is very common, or Spanglish is very common. But how do you see the women of today, the men of today, evolving in comparison to your parents' generation, and even my parents' generation, or even my generation for that matter? How do you see that evolving? How do you see that changing from where you were a little girl?
I think it's changing a lot faster because of the resources that are available now. Like, they didn't have entrepreneur classes. They didn't have, programs where they could teach you how to write a business plan or how to get a loan, or there's just, and I'm talking from the Latinos that want to be entrepreneurs.
Right.
I'm seeing that because that's what I'm around. It's constant growth because myself, my network, the Latinos I like to associate, or people, I should say, because it's not just Latinos, the people that I like to associate myself with want to help. I can grow. It's not that hard. You can grow too. Then here comes the community resources, the city resources, the programs, the classes. The growth is just it really is so much easier now if you really want it
Right.
compared to back then, compared to when my dad was trying to become an entrepreneur, because he had to learn all on his own. He didn't come from that at all.
Well, I absolutely. I think we have a plethora. First and foremost, we have a plethora of information, and the amount of information that we receive today on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, compares to the amount of information our parents or grandparents used to receive. In 1 week, we receive more information than our parents and grandparents used to see or have access to in their lifetime. For God's sakes, you can click on your phone and you have access to anything and everything you want in the world is readily available to you. And aside from Google, you have YouTube and you have ebooks and you have incredible social media platforms that are available where you can find and discover what I call cyber mentors, people that you can look up to, people that you can follow, people that you can model after. None of that was available when your parents were growing up. Heck, not even, I don't believe even probably when you were a teenager that was available at that time.
No, that stuff didn't probably become available maybe what, 13, 14 years ago plus?
Yes.
Because that's when my social media journey started.
Right.
When all that started becoming popular.
So let me ask you a question. You said something that is very important. You said the people I am around, the people I associate with. You know, there's a very well-known quote that we become the total sum of the 5 people, or the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Okay, you always want to be the 6th, right? You always want to be that 6th person. What do you look for in your relationships? What is it? Because this is what exactly Latin Talks is all about. How do we break those dysfunctional cycles of behavior? How do we break illiteracy? How do we break poverty? Because a lot of times that poverty is not that there's not options available, is that we cannot see them because we became so rooted to our own environment. So how do you break through that? How do you select your 5? How did that mindset grow up or develop rather?
I think seeing, again, it goes back to what I was surrounded by as a child. I saw that in my own family. Like there were some family members that, you know, they were the druggies, and they, you know, lived in the poverty, and they lived in this and the, you know, the ghetto and all, you know, all that, right? And my parents always kept us away from that. And I never understood why till I got older. But as that's going on, and as me and my brothers are growing, so are my parents. They're growing as I'm sorry?
I said, very interesting. I want to dig more into that.
Yes. So they just wanted to keep us away from, of course, negativity, surroundings that were not healthy. And I think that didn't fit into their life or what they wanted for their own life. So of course they don't want that for their children's lives. So again, it goes back to all I know. That has just stayed with me, because it's like this. You know, you meet someone that's abused and that's all they know, right? So what happens? They go and get with someone that's going to abuse them because their parents abused them, their parents abused them, and they didn't have the mindset to get out, right? Well, that's the same for me. So if I'm not around growth, positivity, I don't want to be around it, because I don't thrive that way. 1, 2, that just brings you down to be around the victim person or the person that doesn't care about growth. And it doesn't have to be entrepreneur life. I mean, in general, with yourself as a person, to really be happy, you need to be around positive things. You can't be.
Absolutely. You know, I'm a big proponent of what I call the 5 pillars: the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the financial.
Yes.
Okay. And I talk about that all the time. And when you tend to those items, when you think to them each and every day, you exit what you and I probably seen and grew up around, this state of survival. You enter the here and the now. You become present and available, and you begin to see your life with clarity and possibilities. You begin to see those opportunities. You begin to see that there's resources available. You begin to see that your parents in today's world need to be as competitive, as dated, as up to speed on what's going on in the world as anybody else, because the world is continuously changing and evolving. And if we don't change and evolve with the world, we are literally left behind. And you also talked about the people that you look for, that you associate with. You try to find people that bring that motivation in you, that bring that inspiration in you, that get you going. And it's not that hard once you find them, because now it becomes your tribe, right? It becomes your community. And
what's happened when I was still working my 9 to 5. You're around your coworkers, and they're not happy in their job, they're not happy in their relationships, they're going through all these things. And I'm not saying all of them, but that is there. So you're around that daily, right?
Sure.
When I got out of that, and I'm networking with like-minded individuals, and I'm around different things that were beneficial to my business, or to myself as an entrepreneur, it's kind of like a high, because you're like, man, they get it. And you just keep going from there. So I think that was the shift when I left corporate America and I was around like-minded individuds, is where I really saw the difference in the tribe.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of highlight what you're saying from my perspective, okay? I think that if we find a little bit of inspiration and we take action and we anchor to that inspiration, the inspiration has to be followed by education, right? We have to learn. Why do I feel this way? What is it that motivated me? What is it that got me excited, right? And how do I keep this momentum going? Was it reading a book? Was it being around XYZ? Was it taking a course online? Was it the people that I follow on social media? Was it the new neighbor that went with me to a yoga class or to a meditation class? Was it somebody that inspired me to exercise? And then you get that education. That education sparks transformation. It changes you. And then you need to empower that, okay, by building community, right? You said by networking, in your case, networking, right? So you start networking, you start looking for your peoples. You start looking for people that when they see you get excited, when you see them get excited, instead of the aunt, the uncle, the brother, the sister, the niece, the nephew that sees you, hey, Peter, you're gaining weight. Hey, Peter, you're losing your hair. Hey, Peter, we're getting married, okay? And I think those are the conversations, April. Thank you for bringing that up. You're doing it in a very elegant way, and I'm more down to the point. I'm more down to cracking the ice, right? But the reality is that a lot of times we need to step away from our environment, okay, and to take what I call a 30,000 feet view and say, well, this is good and this is not good. This is good and this is not good. And then start being around those people that do empower you. Start being around those people that do motivate you. Start being around those people that bring that excitement in you. How did you begin to discover that? Because there was a time, and I'm gonna go into, tell me a little bit about a dark moment in your life, somewhere where you didn't find that. Someone where somebody was dragging you down, whether it was a relationship, a partnership, whatever it was. Let's talk about that. And how were you able to exit that and become the woman that you are today? Because I think that's a very important takeaway, April.
I think it was my last marriage. It was hard being married to someone that didn't take your goals or your dreams seriously. They thought, whatever. It's cute. You're cute, or they're jealous because of your drive. I get everything just happens for you. I'm like, no, I'm up till 4 a.m. every day writing. Like, no, it doesn't just happen for me. But you have to question yourself and really dig deep and think, okay, is this the way I want my life every day? And I didn't want my life that way. So I got out. That wasn't the main reason I got out. It was other bad things, but I got out of that. And I've never been one to let people really negative things don't really bother me. I mean, if it's someone I care about that it's coming from, they hurt. Yeah, it hurts. I mean, we're human, but I already know what I'm capable of. I already know my ambition, and I don't let anything get in the way of that. And I had to do that with my marriage, my ex-marriage. The same thing.
I love that confidence, and I love exactly what you said right there. I don't let anyone get in the way of that. I know my capabilities. I know my ambition. I know my drive. I know what I'm capable of doing. I love that. Now, you cited a couple of things. You said, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you would share your dreams and sort of supporting you and saying, which is very common in the Latino community. Okay. You share your dreams with your partner, with your brother, with your sister, with your aunt, with your uncle, even with your friends, right? Say, oh yeah, that's cute. Sure, está loco este way. Okay, he's never gonna do it. He's been talking about that shit for a long time. Okay, or you share your dreams or your ambitions, and there's a jealousy. They become the saboteur. Okay, they almost encourage you to go to the bar instead of to go spend time reading.
Oh yeah.
Or they, and maybe it's even subconsciously. I don't say that people do that by nature, but maybe they find a way. How do they sabotage what you're doing? Or they don't take you serious. So how is it today? Because that is a muscle that as individuals we have to be able to develop, where we create a boundary for ourselves, where we don't allow outside forces to influence our drives, our goals, our dreams, and our desires. Okay. How have you been able to develop that muscle? And what is it that you do that keeps you on track, that doesn't take you back?
I don't want to say that I had to develop that muscle. I think I've kind of always had it from childhood because of the way my dad was, because he was that way.
But let's talk about the individual that perhaps doesn't have that muscle. They didn't have your parents, okay? But you've seen this journey. You've seen your journey of transformation and how you got back into alignment. If you were talking to 15-year-old April that was from a different family, completely different, what would you tell her? What would you tell that 15-year-old April to do in order to accomplish some of the things that you have accomplished? And I realize, April, that we all have a different journey. In fact, I wrote a quote about that the other day. We all have a different journey, and my success is not anybody else's success. It's my success. And to some people, it may look minimal. To some, may look great. To some, may even not even notice it. It doesn't matter. Okay, that's my success. So we all have a different journey. Okay, so let's talk about how you would tell somebody, hey, you're going down the wrong track. You're sleeping around. You're smoking weed. You're skipping classes. That's the generation we want to talk to. Or that woman that perhaps is in a difficult marriage. She feels trapped. She has a couple of children. She dropped out of high school. How do we talk to them? How do we inspire them to realize that there's opportunities out there beyond their immediate surroundings?
You have to. That's hard because it just depends on the individual's mindset. But you have to kind of let them know that they are more deserving of what they're with. Yeah. Or how bad do you want a better life? I see the younger generation, they don't want to put the work into anything. They want everything just given to them. And then they're crying because their life sucks. And it's like, okay, well, what did you put into it to reach the goal? You're not doing anything. So I'm pretty straightforward when it comes to that, because I know what I've gone through as a Latina woman to get to where I'm at. So for me, I don't like excuses.
Right.
So it goes to that.
Yeah, and I get that. So with that in mind, tell me, what are some of the biggest challenges you have faced as a Latina woman in business, and how did you overcome those?
Being underestimated all the time.
Wow. So tell me about that. Share one.
But I like those. Yeah. Now, here's how I've grown now. Like what's led me to now. If an opportunity or a relationship or anything in my life doesn't fit my community, it doesn't fit well with myself, as a woman, as a human being, if it doesn't fit well with my family, I don't do it. And that's what I've been sticking to lately.
Right.
Because when I first started Life from the Southside, it highlights positive stories and interesting people in a very underserved community.
Absolutely.
You can imagine the comments, I got. Oh, you're gonna, interview cholos. You're gonna interview, you're gonna write about chamoy and Chinese candy. I'm serious. These are jokes I got.
Really?
And I'm like,
let me ask you a question before. Don't lose that thought. But who were you getting those comments from? Was it people in the community?
In the media industry?
Okay. Yeah. Your counterparts, right?
Pretty much.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's funny because so much has happened for me in my career because of my hard work, and these people are now all of a sudden supportive.
Right.
Let
me ask you a question. To a certain degree, as Latinos, are we at fault for having that image? Is that something that perhaps that perception? I'm not saying whether we deserve it or not. That's a different story. But have we created? Have we given somebody to a certain degree by default? Did we earn that right, or are we misunderstood? How do we break through that in a way that doesn't happen? And I'm going to share you my philosophy after that, okay?
That's a tough one. So I have met quite a few individuals where they grew up in the type of home where you don't go to school. It's your high school diplomas like your PhD. And, we don't do this or that because only rich people do that. And, that mindset, it's like, this is it. I finished high school and got a job and was there 20 years, and that's your destiny as well. Like, no, I think that's changing though.
Yeah.
But I can see why it still lingers in like my age and older that want to start over. And what I mean by start over, I mean like start a business, start a new life, start a second career. Why they don't get that family support, because that's the mindset. Like, what do you mean you want to start a business, but you've been working at your job 20 years? Like,
right.
What's wrong with you? Not like, instead of, that's awesome, that's great. You can, our culture has a lot of negativity in it when it comes to that.
Sure. I call that dysfunctional love, right? Like my mother, she loved us. Okay. She was a great mother. She was a great believer in God, but I saw a lot of dysfunction at home, right? And in her belief system. But I also realized is that she was only able to provide, like my father, like your father, and at your circumstances, what they know, right? That's all she could give. That's what she know how to give. And I think April, and I'd like to hear your feedback on this. I truly believe that that what we are experiences right now, we're experiences. There's 3 to 4 different generations that are alive right now, from Gen Zers to millennials to baby boomers and an older and maybe a couple of younger generations. Okay, but there's a huge bridge. Okay. The baby boomers and older, that generation has a lot of experience and wisdom from practical living, right? From what they saw the world happen. Okay. The millennials and Gen Zers and other generation, they have access to information and they actually see how the world can change and transform, how a person can really evolve and change. We have witnessed things that we used to read about in history, right? We're witnessing how Elon Musk has changed the automobile industry, okay? We witness how Mark Zuckerberg changed how we connect as human beings through Facebook and Instagram. So we are really in real time experiencing the transformation of the universe and of the people ourselves. But yet, as Latinos, we are anchored to this outdated belief system that we got to buck the system, right? So, for example, we may have a young 22-year-old that has a father that is 60 or 70 years old, or a grandfather, whatever the case may be, and he wants to talk to him about Bitcoin. or cryptocurrency or starting a business online, he's going to get rebuked because of the belief system that his father or grandfather or any other family member has. Okay. And I think one of the things that we want to do collectively, you included, as part of Latin Talks, is how do we bridge that gap, right? How do we close that bridge? How do we able to go ahead and bring that community where that, instead of negative talk, becomes supportive talk? Or let's research it. Let's understand it. Teach me. You said something that is very, very commendable. You said, my parents kept learning. Okay. Unfortunately, I never saw my parents doing that. I'm not saying that not because they didn't want to, because I truly believe that a lot of parents, a lot of families have a self-imposed state of survival. Okay. It's a self-imposed state of survival. Somebody has to break that cycle. Somebody has to say, not on my watch, not anymore. Okay, mom and dad, you don't believe in me? Well, let me go do it and let me come back and prove it. Because that's literally what I had to do. Okay. If I stayed around, I remember seeing mother pray for hours on end and her situation never changed. Okay. That doesn't mean that God was not working. It was not working on my timing, right? I needed to also step in and take action.
Yes, that's what a lot of people that result to religion. Because I have a lot of acquaintances that are very involved in church and they go every day, every Sunday, hallelujah, whatever. Okay, but what are you really doing to change the situation? Because you can't, I do believe in God. I went to Catholic school, but I do believe that God helps those that help themselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now, again, for the audience, this is not devaluing your belief system. This is
no.
Which this is what we realize and what the real world is all about, right? I mean, we can still, I believe in God. And now I realize that my mother's prayers actually work, because look at me now. Okay. So something that she provided in me, I have an incredible amount of faith, but you need to couple that with action. You need to couple that with education. You need to couple that with transformation. You need to couple that with work. And you need to couple that with preparing yourself for an ever-changing world, right? So now let's talk about your journey to where you're at today. Life from the Southside. What is it? How do you establish it? And what exactly did you do?
So Live from the Southside is a platform and publication that highlights the Southside of San Antonio throughout Texas and beyond. It was actually a COVID project. I had launched a blog that's now my website to highlight the Southside. And when COVID hit, I couldn't be out and about hosting events and promoting small businesses and all the stuff I was doing with that. At the same time, I had to close my spa business because of COVID. We couldn't have any personal service type businesses open at that time. So my mentor, Lisa, she's still in my life to this day. She says, that childhood dream you've always wanted of owning your own magazine, why don't you just do it now? You're not doing anything else, creative, you need a creative outlet. And so I did. And that was it. It just snowballed on me. I did not know at the time that I was the first Latina to launch a publication in my underserved Southside community. So I have had so much support from my Southside community and my city and beyond. Because, when I was travel writing prior to that, you build relationships. So people have obviously kept in touch or watched my journey, I should say, through social media and via email. They keep in touch with me. It's crazy. I get fan mail now.
I love it. I love it. You used the word called mentor. Okay. I have learned that word in the last couple of 5 years. Okay. Maybe a little bit longer, but it was non-existent when I was growing up. Okay. And I think it's very non-existent in the Latino community across the board, and one of the reasons that we created Latin Talks is to be able to bring local Latin leaders that the younger generation can look up to, that we can create a cyber sort of mentor system, okay? People that they can hear their stories and say, April did it this way. So if I follow some of April's path, advice, I'm going to be able to do. So what does a mentor mean to you? And how common is that in our community? And how important is it for us to find one?
A mentor to me is someone that is going to give you advice and guide you to make things happen in your life. It doesn't have to necessarily be education. It could be, emotional support. It could mean anything. In my case, my mentor came at a really odd time. She taught me so much. She believed in me. She pushed me. She could see things in myself that I don't want to say I didn't know I had, because I knew they were there. I just didn't know how to get them out.
Right.
You hear mentorships more so now. I think that's because of the younger generation. I don't think we ever heard that growing up, because as Latinos, first of all, you don't share none of your business, right? You don't vent to anybody, because you just don't, especially men. They don't vent about anything. They don't talk about anything. And then there's that whole stereotype in the Latino culture where, well, I don't want her better than me. So, so it's a combination of different things. I don't think you necessarily find a mentor. I think it's kind of like a soulmate.
Yeah.
Because, they just come into your life and they help you make things happen. They help you make things, I don't even know how to word this, but for like my mentor, she helped me and I don't want to say molded me, but she showed me what I could do for myself.
Yeah, she heightened your potential. She saw your potential. She reminded you, the lady, she empowered you to develop your potential.
Yes.
And the reality is, you said a couple of things while you were saying that, and that is that it's not something we used to hear. First of all, in the Latino community, many of men don't share. Okay, there's a machoism, which in my opinion, is stupid, just plain stupid. Okay, you're not stop being a man by sharing. You don't stop being a man by crying. You don't stop being a man by being sensible, by being compassionate, by being kind, by stepping up for your community. You don't stop being a man. As a matter of fact, I think that is how men truly shine. Okay, when they lead, that's what we are designed to do, to lead in a positive way. And you also said that I don't want somebody to be better than me, which is very, very common in the community. So a lot of times I used to see it. People wouldn't help you because they didn't want you to be better than them. Okay. Today we have a plethora of what I call cyber mentors, cyber role models. People in social media, if you go on social media, you're going to come across Grant Cardone. You're going to come across Gary Vee. You're going to come across Evan Carmichael, John Ashraf, Robin Sharma, Lisa Nichols, Dan Fleshman. I can go on and on and on and on and on. But did you listen? Have you heard a Spanish surname there?
No, I'm not surprised.
That's what we need. That's what we need. And the reality is that I look forward to the day where somebody is listening to this podcast or somebody sharing a very similar conversation to us. And instead of saying Grant Cardone, they said April Monterrosa or Peter Esteves or Juan Martinez or John Longoria or whoever it may be. Doesn't have to be me, doesn't have to be you, but it has to be one of us out of our community. And I think a lot of times the only way that we're going to be able to accomplish that is by stopping the bickering, by stopping the competing, and by creating community, by creating love and support for each other, and by knowing that if you pull one up, okay, it used to be that I had somebody tell me this a few weeks ago when I was sharing my vision about Excelente, my vision about Latin Talks, and she says, "Well, you guys are known for the crap theory." And I said, "What's the crap theory? One of y'all is trying to get out, and the rest of y'all is pulling you down." How degrading is that? How degrading is for another culture to tell us something like that. And what I have seen in the last 25, 30 years with Oprah primarily, with Tyler Perry, I really saw them go to bat for their community, for the African American community. I really saw Oprah create a platform where she was able to talk about the isms, the deficiencies, the lack of, the things that were holding the African American community back and not allowing them to move forward. And she started highlighting people that were successful in their own right, but nobody knew about. Nobody knew about the woman, the African American woman in Arkansas that wrote a book or was a pillar of her community, or the man that had done this, or whoever. And then we've seen how Tyler Perry has also broke a lot of those myths through comedy in his movies, where he was able to bring to the attention of his culture, of the African American culture, the things that they were saying to each other, doing to each other, the lifestyles that they were living, that was holding them back as a community, as a culture. And if we see what's happened in that community, they have developed more doctors, more lawyers, more professionals, more seasoned boards, more millionaires, more empowerment into that community. And I look forward to not only your talk, but the talk of Elliot and the talk of Gio and the talk of our good friend, Dr. Ray Altamirano in Latin Talks, and hear those stories of empowerment. And I look forward to the younger generation of Latinos to be able to listen to this conversation 5 years from now, 6 years from now, 2 weeks from now, and to know that there's possibility that if April Monterrosa did it, they can do it too.
Awesome. Yes. This is where it starts.
This is where it starts. And I want to thank you for believing in me, believing in Selena, and believing in Latin Talks and being part of our community. And I look forward to a long-lasting friendship, long-lasting.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good.
It is. What would you like to say to close up the podcast?
Oh my goodness. I just hope that I see a lot of my San Antonio community at the event.
Well, I think you will. We have quite a them register. I am really excited. Ladies and gentlemen, April Monterrosa, thank you so much.